Alright, so today we're going to be building a cat's head. Now, let me just give you a quick explanation of what a cat's head is in case you don't know. Cat's heads, you'll see them a lot. I think probably gunsmiths will use them a lot for doing barrel work, especially if you have an awkwardly shaped barrel. Either it has flat sides or it's octagonal or something along those lines. And what it'll allow you to do is, say you have a piece of hex stock like this brass bar. Now I cannot, because of my spindle hole, I cannot get this to the spindle. So if I want to machine this on the lathe, I'm kind of in a conundrum, because I need to be able to hold this in the steady. Well, obviously I'm not going to be able to. So basically what a cat's head is a cylinder that will ride in your steady like so, but allow your work to pass through it. And you'll have screws, set screws, that will lock into your work, which will allow you to place oddly shaped stock and let you run it in your steady rest. And pretty much that's what we're going to make. And I have it set up on the lathe over here already. We're going to be using this. This is a 2-inch tubing. This is actually stainless steel. I don't know what grade, but it's definitely non-magnetic. And we're going to be using that. That was in my scrap box. You can use whatever you want, but that's just what we're going to be using. And that will allow me to get right in between these rollers here. That is the largest diameter I can fit in this steady rest with these rollers in place. If I take these rollers off, I can get about another 1/2 inch in diameter in there. But we're going to make it out of that. So what we need to do right now is basically on the tube here is I've already faced the edge. That cut was already in the stock. This, like I said, came out of a scrap pile somewhere, probably from work. So this cut was already in there, but this length here gives me plenty of room to be able to put it in the steady rest and get set screws on either side. So we're going to machine pretty much right up to that line. And I've already faced it off, and now we just have to true up the outside edge. We need a consistent, perfect diameter on the outside. The inside here can be a little bit of run out, because we're just going to be putting set screws in there. There's nothing that's going to be actually touching the physical inside diameter. But since our steady rest is going to be running on the outside of this, we want to make sure that this entire front here is perfectly concentric. Now, I'm going to be doing it just like it is here. I would have liked to have had a bullnose center in here, a pipe center in here to hold it, just to give me a little bit of support. I don't have one. Maybe I'll make one for another project. But as long as I take light cuts, I should be all set. And this is stainless steel anyway, so I'm not going to be taking that deep of a cut to begin with. And my tool is just, I believe it's, I think it's 8%. Yeah, is cobalt steel high-speed blank that I just ground and honed. So that's brand new, and it is cobalt steel. The reason why I would rather use cobalt steel for stainless rather than regular M2 is cobalt has a higher hardness. It's not necessarily tougher than M2, but it stands up to heat and abrasiveness better than regular M2 would. So this will actually hold its edge longer than M2, especially on stainless. So as long as I go slow, use a lot of cutting oil, we should be able to get right through that. I faced the edge here with a regular M2 stainless M2 tool bit here, which was this one right here, and we didn't really do that much damage to the edge, so it did cut right through it. So this will be even better and make a decent finish. So let me set up over here, we'll take a skim cut of this, and then we'll start the rest of our work. Okay, we're all set up. I have this set on my slowest direct drive speed and also my slowest feed rate. Just low and slow, and you should be fine with the stainless. It's going to smoke a lot, and but we should be able to get through it pretty good. So. Yeah, it's a pretty good finish. Let's make sure we're all the way around, which we pretty much seem to be. So now what I'm going to do is just going to go over to my bandsaw and just give this a quick little cut right at that line. Okay, so here's our cylinder. I haven't cut it yet. We took about 10-12 thousandths off to true it up. And I just polished it up with some emery cloth just to get the tooling marks off of there. We did have a little bit of chatter around this area here just because that side wasn't supported, and you can see we're all nice and true. And as far as our tool goes, our edge is still pretty decent. It got a little bit of a raised area right on the very tip, but I didn't have that much of a radius on there. And you can see it has slight radius, but tool held up perfectly fine. So no overheating, no even discoloration of there. So let me just go over to the bandsaw real quick, and I will continue this cut all the way through. And then I'm just going to throw it back in the lathe real quick and just chamfer the inside and outside, and then we can set up to drill our holes. Okay, so there's our finished tube. Now we just need to mark it out for our holes, and you can make it as long or as short as you want, but this works out perfectly fine. Now I have this tube in here so that the distance from the edge of this roller to the edge of the tube itself is the same as the edge of this casting to the edge here. So if we just measure, let me set this to 0, measure our distance here, uh, 810,000, so you can call that 400. and I have my layout die on there, so we'll just set this to 400 here. Lock it down. And just grab a line there. And same thing there. Now we'll just double check with one of the screws we're going to use, which is going to end up being a 1/4 cap head screw, which later on we'll put a brass piece on the bottom. We want to make sure that if we put this screw in here that we clear everything, which we look good there. And we just clear everything there. So we'll be able to clear everything there if we have this set into this position. Our screws will clear the edge of our rollers, and if we have a screw sticking up beyond here, we'll clear this casting here. As you can see here, we got about an 1/8 of an inch between where that screw is going to go and the casting. So now we need to put our screw holes in there. So I'm going to do 4 screws. You can do as many or as little as you want. You can do 4, you can do 6, you can do 8. However many you want, you can do. I'm going to do 4, just like a 4-jaw chuck. So that way there we have adjustment sideways. We can be able to grab a regular piece of square stock here. The only thing though is if you're going to be using any kind of hex, you'll want to put 3 screws in there, like a 3-jaw chuck, so you'll be able to grab on 3 sides. But for me, I'll put 4 in there for now, and we'll see how that works out. Okay, I have one side done with our 4 screws, and we're in there pretty good. We just got one is slightly lower than the other 2, but as far as alignment this way and this way, they're all in there pretty damn straight. And I'm going to show you how I did it. Now, first of all, the outside diameter of this is just shy of 2 inches. So we found out using formulas and pi, we know what the diameter is, and we know our constant pi. Multiply that, you get the actual circumference of the outside of this tube. So then you take that and divide it by 4, because we want 4 screws in there. And then we take that measurement and transfer it to a piece of tape. So from here to here, here's my 4 lines. Now, we take this tape and align that tape with our scribe line. Now we have 4 evenly spaced lines. And what we'll do is we'll take one and we'll center punch that one. So let me do that. I'm just going to center punch one of these marks, and then we'll go over to the drill press, and I'll bring the drill press over here, and I'll show you how I have that set up. Okay, so here's pretty much the setup. I got this V-block clamped down to the table of my drill press, and as you can see, I have a hole drilled into it. Now that hole is perfectly in line with the spindle. Just one quick word I forgot to tell you. You want to make sure that those lines that you have are on center with the holes that you just drilled, or the first holes that you drilled. So you just take a straight edge here and hold her up. We end up on center. So now the reason why that hole is there is I punched one of these marks. That will go down here, and we will center drill, and tap that. And once we get that tapped, we'll rotate it 180 degrees, put it right over that hole, take a screw, and put it right up through the middle. Tighten it down, and that'll hold this in line, so I can drill another hole on the opposite side, and it'll line up perfectly. square. Then once I get those two holes in place, I can use these two screws on either side. I have actually a little wooden shim that ends up fitting perfectly on either side. Here, I can rest those screws on there, and that'll perfectly center it the other way. And I can drill that hole, flip it 180 degrees, screw it up from the bottom, and then drill the other hole, and they'll always be in line. So, let's start off with the first one here. Excuse the running upstairs, but drill. Screws. Alrighty, that's all tightened down, and as you can tell, we end up right on that line. Alright, we got it spun around, and what I have is the two screws in the sides there, and just two shims on either side. These screws tighten to squish the shims, and you can see it's nice and stable on the top. That gives me just enough room that'll automatically center it. So now we just got to take my tap follower here, and you can see, I don't know, I'm gonna sneeze. There's the line there, and we pretty much just intersect it, maybe slightly off, but we just want to make sure that we're on the line that we want, and we're pointed right on our scribe line. So we'll switch out to and then we'll flip it around to the other side here. Okay, nice and tight there, and we can double check that we're pointed pretty much in the same spot of that other one, which we are. Actually, I don't need these anymore. And we're right on our scribe line. Take that out. There we go. Now it's going in. And there you go. Pretty much all in center. I mean, you're off just a hair, but I mean, if you had some sort of index so you can get it perfect, but that's pretty damn good just for doing it by punch marks and tape. So what I want to do now is these screws are going to be brass tipped. That way we don't mar whatever we're going to be grabbing on, especially if you're doing any kind of gunsmithing work. You obviously want to make sure you don't mar your barrel, so you want those brass tipped, or even nylon tipped if you have like a bluing or something that you really don't want to disturb or rub off. So what I'm going to do is just show you how to do one screw, and I'll do all the other ones off camera. And let me set back up on the lathe. Okay, so now all we want to do is take the regular cap head screws and make them brass tipped. Now you can buy them, which is perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable thing to do, or you can just make them, which is pretty simple. So what you want to do is get a bolt that fits, or a nut that fits that screw rather, and just throw it in this chuck real quick. And we're going to tighten that screw down into that nut nice and tight. These are cheapo screws too. Even the hex in the top really isn't cut very deep or well. So, and I'm going to just chuck that up. We're running pretty true. So what I do is take our tailstock here, ourselves a nice little center drill in there. And we're going to drill 3 32nd hole in the middle, and that is what is going to accept our brass piece. Doesn't have to be too deep. I just broke my drill bit for a second there. Okay. Now to move our tailstock out of the way without hitting our camera would be awesome. There's a reason why I didn't use cutting oil on that, is because I'm going to Loctite it, the brass piece in place, and I don't want to get a lot of oil in there. So we'll set that screw aside for a second. And we'll take a piece of 1/8 inch brass here. Now you could cut all these first in a collet. That'll also work. And we just need to turn that down to fit inside that screw. So I'm going to take a regular turning tool. Now you're going to be doing this real close to the chuck here, just because you have such a small diameter. So just be aware of that. And don't run your tools into your chuck. That gives us plenty of room. There we go, it fits in there nice. So we're going to take our parting tool. And again, I just have to move that out a little bit. Right about there. Cut ourselves off a piece. Okay. I already put a drop of Loctite on the inside of this. We'll just press that piece in place there. Wait a few seconds. It should dry right up. There we go, it's nice and dry. I'll just drag that piece on a file if I can find it, right here. And there you go. One brass tipped screw. Alright, so I got 7 more of these to make, but I'm going to just set the cat set up right now just to show you kind of how it works. Okay, now I'm going to use the hex stock. Ideally, if I were, ideally with the hex stock you'll want the 3 screws spaced in a triangle, but you can still use the 4. You just have to be careful that on these sides here where it's going to grab that you don't tighten it super tight. Now obviously you'll have a the brass tip on there anyway, so you probably won't, you shouldn't mar it unless you go Herculean tight, and it'll still work. The 4 screws will work great for square stock. I just figured this will be easier for a quick demonstration rather than sit here and dial in a 4-jaw chuck, and plus the square stock that I have really isn't that big to begin with, so it would be kind of harder to demonstrate the use of it. So let's just put this in here, tighten that down. Slide a cat's head over here. Close her up. And what we'll do first is just get these jaws in place to where I need them. Okay, I got you a little bit of a dead-on shot here. Now, I just quickly eyeballed the distance and measured with just a scale the distance between here and here, and set each jaw roughly the same. Now, so I don't have anything really dialed in, and these screws are just tight and touching the bar. In other words, I just clamped them in just to show you how it works. Now you'll be able to get a dial indicator on the inside of this. If you make it bigger, you know, you can make yourself a spot actually for the dial indicator, but in here I can get, along this inside edge here, I have a good about 1/4 of an inch. I can get one, like a last word indicator right on there, and I can adjust these jaws to get this cat's head to within, you know, a few thousandths of run out, because we know that we skim cut this outside, so we know that we're concentric on the outside. And then from that, I'll be able to dial in this bar on either end with a dial indicator. So right now I have a little bit of run out. It's not that bad, but just be aware that this isn't completely dialed in, but that's pretty much the way it works. So now I'll be able to machine the end here, do whatever I have to do with the end. I can cut, I can thread, I can also center drill the end and then remove this. I can center drill the end of that, move the cat's head down further this way, so I can machine in between here, or I can remove the entire steady completely. I can use it with, like I said, the hex rod that's in here. I can use it with a piece of square stock or some other weird configuration of metal that you have. And it's a pretty neat piece of equipment, and kind of handy to have. Like I said, a lot of time you'll see it in a gunsmith shop. If they do a lot of barrel work, you'll definitely see one of these, because they do a lot with hex barrels and different kind of configurations of that. So hope you guys kind of enjoyed this video, and we'll think up some other projects. Maybe I'll make a bullnose center, I don't know, figure something out, and we'll get on to that project, and we'll see you on the next video.